So, I get a lot of comments under my videos where people say that rare patterns like black gems and white gems are way too rare and expensive to buy. So today, I will show you exactly how to get rare knife patterns at significantly cheaper prices with nearly no overpay at all. If you're specifically looking for rare patterns or want to get the best value for your money, this video is definitely for you. And with that being said, let's get right into the video. Before we start, I need to explain how pattern-based knives work when it comes to pricing. Usually, rare patterns are divided into multiple tiers, with 1 being the best and 3 being the worst. The better the tier, the more expensive the patterns get, and typically, people buy the number 1 best pattern because of rarity and the simple fact that it's the best, so the price exponentially increases once you're in that tier 1 area. What you'll notice is that the difference between, for example, a 100% fade and a 99 is nearly impossible to notice, but the price is significantly higher. So essentially, you start getting diminishing returns with higher tier patterns since the overall look doesn't change much and there is a significant overpay for rarity and other factors. Now, if you want to get the best value for your money, the sweet spot is usually tier 2 and tier 3 patterns. They will feature that rare pattern that you're looking for and can typically be found on markets for little to no overpay. This doesn't apply to every knife, but it's a good general rule to go by when searching for a CS2 knife. One last thing, finding nice patterns will require some work, and you will need to check listings on markets, but I will show you exactly what to look for, and it's always worth it to get the best possible knife for your budget. First up, we have black gems on stilettos, and most people are only aware of the number 1 pattern, which is 791. It's both rare and expensive. I went through all 1,000 patterns, and there were tons of other patterns that are primarily full black and work just as well with black combos. Some notable ones are pattern 284, pattern 543, pattern 446, and pattern 374. Now, there's a ton of other patterns that look similar to 374, and you can occasionally find them listed on markets for nearly market price since they're completely undocumented. When looking at market listings, check the screenshot and look for this dark black color at the top and bottom of the handle, as well as the blade. Even with this in mind, it will take some time to find a good pattern at a decent price. Next up, we have white gems, which I do mention a lot, and the number 1 pattern that everyone knows about is 402. I will highlight that this pattern is incredibly unique. It's simply the best, and there's a good reason for the huge overpay. However, here are random patterns that I found that are mainly white, and while they aren't nearly as good as 402, they are great choices for combos, and the best part is that they're also completely standard patterns, so you should be able to find them for normal market price. When searching for a good pattern, the main key is looking for blades that have a ton of white on them. The handle doesn't matter nearly as much. Now, the total supply on markets is relatively low, so you will need to spend some time searching for a good pattern, but it's completely possible and you don't need a 402 for a good combo with the smokeouts. I do want to quickly mention that all of my price research was done using CS Float, but more importantly, Overpay, which is today's sponsor. Overpay is a player-to-player trading site where you can buy and sell skins securely with excellent reviews on Trustpilot. There's a huge variety of knives for all price ranges, and it's very easy to find exact patterns, floats, and finishes at prices significantly cheaper than the Steam market. There's no buying fee and a 3% selling fee, so if you guys want to check it out, you can use my link in the description for a free $5 bonus. Gold gems are available on every knife, so let's compare. This is pattern 939, which is the best and does require overpay. Now, here's a completely random pattern I found which is primarily gold and sells for standard market price. Here's a few more patterns that I found. All of these look great and work well if you're going for a yellow combo. It's also super easy to find them. Just check the screenshot and look for as much gold as possible. There's a ton of listings for case hardened knives, so it's really easy to find a good pattern that requires absolutely no overpay. This also applies to every other knife in the game, and the process for finding them is exactly the same. Next up, let's talk about fake sapphires, which are max blue Doppler phase 4s. Here's a flip knife sapphire for reference, and here is a normal market price Doppler phase 4 that looks incredible for the budget. These patterns primarily feature blue at the tip of the blade and minimal dark spots that are near the hilt. Just check all available listings and look for patterns that primarily feature this dark blue color. Also make sure to check how they look in game. For Canan Bits, the dark blue is primarily at the tip of the blade, however they will require some overpay since there is a huge difference between normal patterns and these Canan Bit fake sapphires. When checking listings, look for the dark blue at the tip of the blade and the dark spots should be near the hilt. These patterns are a huge upgrade from standard P4, so I highly recommend them for blue combos. Moving on, let's talk about Canan Bits. Here's pattern 782, which is one of the best, and here's pattern 700, which is considered better than average. 782 requires huge overpay, and better than average patterns are listed at or near market price frequently. So if you plan on buying a Karambit Gamma Doppler Phase 3, you can literally get one of these amazing patterns with minimal overpay. When checking listings, you want to look for that cyan color at the end of the blade, and the closer it gets to the hilt, the better the pattern. While Canan Bits are a term for Karambits, these cyan patterns are also available on bayonets, flip knives, and gut knives. Instead of tiers, fade knives are ranked by their fade percentage, which ranges from 80 to 100. Pattern 412 is the #1 best pattern for talons and karambits with a perfect 100% fade, and for every other knife, that pattern is 763. These patterns command ridiculous overpay, but if you want to get the absolute best value for your money, I recommend going for 94 to 96% fades. You will often find knives with this fade percentage around market price, and it's a high enough fade where purple shows up on butterflies and yellow shows up on karambits. It's also easy to find them, just check the percent next to each listing as it's already provided. Keep in mind, high tier knives like butterflies and karambits tend to increase in price more between different fades, while lower tier knives can easily be bought for market price with very high fades. If you plan on getting a blue steel knife, make sure to grab a clean pattern as it will cost absolutely no overpay. A lot of patterns will have these dark spots that are highly visible in brighter lighting, so here are some examples of patterns that have spotless blades and look pretty much perfect on the play side. This applies to every knife that has the blue steel finish, and when searching on markets, check the screenshot and look at the blade. The ideal pattern will have a clean blade where you can't see any of the dark spots, and it's really easy to find good patterns since the supply for blue steels is huge. Phase 2 Dopplers are incredibly popular, and the #1 pattern for Karambits is 350, which as you guessed it, is extremely expensive. Now let's compare pattern 207, which is a tier 4 and can also be found for standard market price. The finish itself is amazing all around, so even lower tier patterns look great, they just have a bit more dark spots than tier 1 and 2. You can reference Coco's guide to find exact patterns, which will be in the description, or manually check listings in-game and look for patterns that don't have any dark spots and primarily feature bright pink throughout the whole blade. This applies to every knife with the Doppler finish. Patterns with minimal dark spots look much better, and it's really easy to find them with absolutely no overpay. And finally, we have slaughters, where most patterns will have lots of outlines and shapes throughout the blade. Here's pattern 23. It's a standard market price pattern that has minimal outlines, so the blade looks very clean with a single tone of red. It is of course a preference, but if you do prefer these cleaner patterns, you can easily find them by looking at screenshots and checking for blades that don't have any dark red spots. I haven't seen anyone discuss clean slaughter patterns before, so I did want to mention it in this video since they don't require overpay. As I stated before, some patterns don't follow these rules, and the price completely depends on how good the pattern is. A few good examples are Fire and Ice, Blue Gems, and highly specific one-of-one patterns. You can still find good deals, it'll just take more time and effort due to the pricing. So that's it for today. If you found this guide helpful, consider subbing to the channel for more content like this, and new videos are coming soon. If you have any other questions, let me know in the comments down below and I will do my best to explain everything. With that being said, I hope to see y'all in the next video and have a great rest of your day. Peace out.